Lee Grant. What if I told you a 25-year-old Oscar nominee walked the red carpet one week, then vanished from movies for the next 12 years? Phones tapped, friends afraid to call, paychecks gone overnight. That was the reality for Lee Grant, a woman who refused to betray her principles, lost her youth in exile, and somehow came back to win Hollywood's highest honors, and then reinvented herself as a fearless director at an age when most actresses were being told to sit down and smile. Ready to hear how she survived the blacklist and bent an industry to her will? Let's go! Lee Grant wasn't born into power. She was born Leova Haskell Rosenthal, to Russian Jewish immigrants who ran from violence and started again in New York with nothing. Her father hustled every hour just to keep the lights on. Her mother, desperate for her daughter to make it, pushed little Lee into lessons, ballet, opera, acting, anything that might open a door. By 4, she'd stepped onto the stage at the Metropolitan Opera. Imagine being that tiny and already performing beside world-class artists. For most kids, playtime is the backyard. For Lee, it was footlights and applause. But applause doesn't cushion the fall. As a teen, her body shot up inches in months, and ballet, the dream, everyone pinned on, slipped away. Money was tight. While classmates went to school, Lee worked, acting, singing, dancing. Childhood? Traded for rent and groceries. That pressure cuts deep. It stays. At 17, she shed her birth name and became Lee Grant, a choice equal parts survival and ambition. She trained hard, absorbing technique from the neighborhood playhouse and later the actor's studio. Even early on, she wasn't chasing cute ingenue roles. She wanted truth characters with splinters and shadows. In 1949, she auditioned for Detective Story, skipped the young part, and asked to read The Shoplifter, a woman twice her age. She borrowed a dowdy dress, studied voices, heard on city buses, and detonated the room. That performance won major theater honors and put film in her sights. Then came the moment that changes everything. In 1951, she reprised that role on screen opposite Kirk Douglas and earned her first Academy Award nomination, 25 years old, a rocket on the launch pad, and then impact. After she criticized government overreach at a funeral, her name showed up in a pamphlet that accused artists of communist sympathies. Within 48 hours, Lee Grant was blacklisted. No movies, no television. Studios ran scared, advertisers pulled money, and a promising career turned to dust. Think about that. You've done nothing criminal. You've just said, "I won't inform on others." And suddenly the door is bolted from the outside. The FBI listened on her line. People followed her. Offers disappeared. She had a child to feed. She pawned jewelry. She taught in private apartments under the radar, passing on craft and hard truths to students who'd someday win their own awards. Every month was, "How do we make rent?" Every day was, "Who's listening?" Her marriage to writer Arnold Manoff crumpled under the heat. He wrote under aliases. She acted under assumed names when she could. The stress rewired her memory and trust. She later joked she spent years dancing on the head of a pin, because when you're watched, every step feels like a misstep. And still, she wouldn't name names. That line she wouldn't cross might have cost her youth in film, but it saved her self-respect. So, how did the door finally open? Slowly. Stage work kept her alive. Equity gave blacklisted actors a bit of shelter. Abroad, she picked up small gigs. Therapy helped her excavate the wreckage the blacklist left behind. Then, in the mid-60 seconds, the fog began to lift. Lee Grant landed a regular role on Peyton Place, and she tore into it like someone who'd waited a decade to speak. The industry noticed. An Emmy followed. For the first time in years, she felt safe on a set. From there, she made choices that felt like exhale and fire at once. In the Heat of the Night, opposite Sidney Poitier, grief on screen and grief in life braided together. You can see it in her eyes, no acting trick, just truth. She showed up in hits and misfires, prestige dramas and pulpy thrillers, and you always believed her because she'd lived the stakes. She wasn't afraid to play difficult women, racist, brittle, vulnerable, powerful, holding up mirrors to the audience, even when the reflection hurt. And then she did something most performers never dare. She pivoted. When the roles got thinner with age, as they so often do for women, Lee Grant moved behind the camera, not as a hobby, as a mission. She directed films and documentaries that stepped right into hot zones: poverty, the mental health system, women in prison, gender identity subjects TV executives considered too risky. She interviewed people others ignored, asked humane questions, and let their voices stand without varnish. The result? Awards, yes, but more importantly, impact. Policy discussions. Curriculum adoption. Viewers who saw themselves, maybe for the first time, treated with dignity. And here's the twist that makes her story land like a drumbeat. For decades, Lee Grant shaved years off her public age just to keep working, because the roles for women over 50 shrank to crumbs while their male peers feasted. She wasn't chasing vanity. She was battling a system. Later, she laughed about, finally revealing the truth. 97 and a half, darling. Like she'd pulled the last mask off and could breathe. Now, doesn't that make you rethink what comeback means? Most comeback stories are about one trophy, one big movie. Lee Grant had two comebacks. The first, reclaiming her career after the Blacklist. The second, reinventing herself as a director and elder stateswoman with teeth. She turned trauma into fuel and silence into films that still feel modern. She proved that integrity may detour your timeline, but it doesn't end your story. And today, near 100, she's still out here. Silver hair, red lipstick, sharing memories, celebrating others, reminding us that endurance can be elegant and resistance can be tender. The Blacklist tried to erase Lee Grant. Instead, it etched her name deeper. So, what sticks with you most? The courage to refuse the easy path, the grit to rebuild from zero, or the audacity to start a whole new career when the world said, "You're done?" If this story hit you in the gut, you know what to do. Drop a comment with the word resilient if you believe integrity is worth any price. Tell me which chapter of Lee Grant's journey shocked you and who you want me to cover next. Hit like if you felt the fight in her. Subscribe for more true Hollywood survival stories told with heart. And share this with someone who needs proof that a closed door isn't the end, it's a plot twist.